Kumusta kayong lahat? Isang magandang araw. Ngayon, titingnan naman natin, papag-aralan natin yung multifaceted contributions ni Dr. Jose Rizal, focusing on his literary masterpieces, scientific endeavors, at yung mga organizational initiatives na ginawa niya. Rizal's legacy as a nationalist, reformist, and polymath continues to inspire and shape our nation's identity. His works and ideas remain relevant as we navigate modern challenges in education, science, politics, and society. Una natin pag-usapan yung literary works ni Jose Rizal, no? Of course, pag sabi natin literary works, una dapat nating na pinagtutuunan ng pansin yung kanang mga nobela. Dalawa ito, no? Isa yung Noli Me Tangere, na published noong 1887, at yung sumunod, yung El Filibusterismo, na na-publish noong 1891. Noli Me Tangere, ito yung tinatawag na seminal novel. It exposes the social cancers na niraramdam ng Pilipinas, ng Philippine society under Spanish colonial rule. Through the journey of Crisostomo Ibarra, Rizal critiques the abuses of the clergy ng Romano Katoliko, no? At yung mga iba't ibang injustices faced by Filipinos. Ano ba yung mga tema ng nobelang ito? Ito yung colonial abuse, social inequality, at yung struggle for reform. The novel's publication ignited a sense of nationalism and urgency for reform among Filipinos. Titulo pa lang, talagang parang binaban na siya ng mga ng Spanish authorities, ng mga pare noon, no? Pero yun nga, copies were smuggled in the Philippines, making it a symbol of resistance. Yung isang pamoso na Rizal historian, si Ambet Ocampo, if ever makita niyo siya sa National Bookstore, yung mga libro niya, or sa ibang bookstore, I tell you, it's worth reading, no? Anyway, sabi ni Ambet Ocampo, no, sa kanyang librong In Rizal Without the Overcoat, Ocampo emphasizes that Noli Me Tangere was groundbreaking work that unveiled the harsh realities of colonial society, challenging both the colonizers and the colonized to reflect and act, no? Dapat itong nangyari dito sa bansa natin, ano ang pwede natin gawin, no? Now, the title Noli Me Tangere is Latin for touch me not, and it actually references a biblical phrase and that symbolizes the untouchable nature of the corrupt system. Noli Me Tangere is from John 20:17, no? Mula sa John 20:17. At ito yung sinabi ni Jesus kay Mary Magdalene, no? When she recognized him after his resurrection, no? Touch me not, huwag mo akong hawakan. In Rizal's time, Noli Me Tangere also referred to cancers that occurred on the face, especially cancers of the eyelid. So touching the lesions caused by the cancer irritated them and caused pain, no? So yun. 1891, na-publish naman ng El Filibusterismo, a sequel to Noli Me Tangere. This darker and more revolutionary novel continues the narrative with Ibarra. Now, kilala na siya bilang Simon, no? Seeking vengeance upon the corrupt system, no? Ang tema naman dito yung power, corruption, revolution, at yung moral consequences ng violence. This novel reflects Rizal's evolving political views and his growing disillusionment with peaceful reform. Historian Leon Guerrero notes that El Filibusterismo illustrates Rizal's internal conflict between his desire for reform and the growing clamor for revolution among Filipinos. The title El Filibusterismo translates to the filibustering. It refers to subversive activities against the state, mga subversibong mga gawain laban sa gobyerno. Jose Rizal's novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, were significantly influenced by two iconic works of European literature, Alexander Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo and Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. These influences are evident in the themes, character development, and narrative structure of Rizal's works. Kung titingnan natin yung The Count of Monte Cristo, or the Count of Monte Cristo, no? The protagonist, Edmond Dantes, transformed into the Count after being wrongfully imprisoned, and he returns to society to exact vengeance to those who betrayed him. No? So parang parehas lang sa El Filibusterismo. Crisostomo Ibarra bumalik bilang Simon, no? Bilang isang mayaman na mang-aalahas to orchestrate a revolution against the corrupt Spanish colonial system. And both characters use their newfound wealth and influence to pursue vengeance. No? At makita natin dito yung key parallel ng dalawang nobelang ito. No? The theme of revenge, driven by personal suffering and betrayal, is central to El Filibusterismo and of course to The Count of Monte Cristo. Dantes adopts multiple identities to carry out his plans, much like Ibarra's transformation into Simon. No? This use of disguise reflects the complexity of their mission and the moral ambiguity of their actions. Both Dantes and Simon grapple with the consequences of their actions. While they seek justice, their methods parang often blur between the lines between right and wrong. Makita din natin dito yung yung libro ni Victor Hugo nung Les Miserables na critic yung social injustices ng 19th century France, focusing on poverty, inequality, and the failures ng legal system. Rizal's Noli Me Tangere similarly exposes the abuses of the Spanish clergy and colonial government in the Philippines, highlighting the suffering of the oppressed. Both works use their protagonists, si Jean Valjean, no, sa Les Miserables, at si Ibarra sa Noli Me Tangere, to explore themes of redemption at sa struggle for justice sa isang unjust society. Sa Les Miserables, nakita natin yung character ni Bishop Myriel. The bishop represents compassion and moral integrity, no, contrasting with the corrupt institutions of the time. No? Nonetheless, dito sa Noli Me Tangere, Rizal portrays the Catholic Church as a tool of oppression, with characters like Padre Damaso and Padre Salvi embodying corruption and abuse of power. No? Kasi, as scandalous as it may seem, hindi lahat ng nagbabalita ng mabuting mensahe ay mabuti. Minsan sila pa mismo yung may evil inside, no? And hopefully you don't encounter Padre Damaso and Padre Salvi in your lives, but let's be realistic. I know you already had, no? And I know you already will, no? But nonetheless, I hope that Noli Me Tangere and of course Rizal would help you navigate your way with the Damaso and the Salvi in your lives. Les Miserables culminates in the June Rebellion of 1832, symbolizing the fight for a better future, while in El Filibusterismo, it explores the possibility of a revolution as a response to systemic oppression. Though Rizal ultimately questions yung morality at yung effectiveness ng isang armed rebellion. Both The Count of Monte Cristo and Les Miserables blend personal narratives with broader societal critics, a technique that Rizal also adopts in his novels. Ibarra or Simon's personal quest for revenge mirrors Dantes, while the societal critic in Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo echoes Hugo's exploration of systemic injustice. Rizal, like Dumas and Hugo, presents morally complex characters who are neither entirely good nor evil. At ito yung nagpapakita ng lalim, no, yung depth ng kanang critic sa colonialism at sa human condition. Rizal's Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo were profoundly shaped by the themes and narrative techniques of The Count of Monte Cristo and Les Miserables. These influences helped Rizal craft novels that were not only compelling stories but also powerful critiques of colonial oppression. By adapting European literary traditions to the Philippine context, Rizal created works that resonated deeply with his countrymen and inspired the fight for national identity and independence. Of course, hindi lang naman dito sa dalawang nobela naging pamoso si Rizal, meron din siyang mga tula, mga poems, no? At ito dito yung yung nasulat ni Rizal nung 18 years old siya, yung A la Juventud Filipina, no? Na-publish noong 1879 to the Filipino youth. This poem exhorts Filipino youth to harness their talents and intellect for the nation's progress. It highlights the youth as the hope of the fatherland and calls for them to rise above colonial oppression. Again, Ocampo highlights that this poem showcases Rizal's early recognition of the youth's pivotal role in nation building, a theme that resonates in contemporary discussions about empowerment. Kung maalala natin, this poem won first prize in a literary contest, marking Rizal's early recognition as a literary talent, no? And pag-usapan naman natin yung poem niya, yung pinakahuling tula ni Rizal, Mi Ultimo Adios, My Last Farewell, 1896, composed on the eve of his execution. This poem expresses Rizal's deep love for his country and his willingness to sacrifice his life for its freedom. It has since become a symbol of patriotism and martyrdom. Yung isang historian natin, si Nick Joaquin, no, sinabi na dinidescribe niya yung poem as Rizal's ultimate act of defiance against tyranny, immortalizing his sacrifice for future generations. And of course, masabi nating sacrifice kasi nga pinili ni Rizal na ma-execute. Bakit pinili ni Rizal? May plano kasi noon na isalba siya ng mga katipunero, no? Pero hindi pumayag si Rizal kasi naisip niya na maraming mamamatay, maraming magsasakripisyo para lang iligtas siya, no? Anyway, of course alam naman natin nung poem na ito, no, tinago sa isang alcohol stove at binigay niya sa kapatid niya na si Trinidad, no, para ma-preserve. Importante din pag-usapan natin dito yung mga essays ni Rizal, no, yung Filipinas dentro de 100 años, the Philippines a century hence. In this prophetic essay, Rizal analyzes the potential future of the Philippines, discussing the possible outcomes of a continued Spanish rule at kung magkakaroon ba tayo ng assimilation or independence. Rizal emphasizes the importance of education and reform in shaping the nation's destiny. Sabi ulit ni Ambet Ocampo, he observed that Rizal's foresight in this essay demonstrate his deep understanding of historical forces and their impact on national destiny. And yun nga, Rizal accurately predicted that Philippines would either gain independence or fall under another foreign power if Spain failed to reform, tulad ng nangyari sa Pilipinas. Meron din isang essay ulit sa Rizal, yung sobre la indolencia de los Filipinos. Sobre la indolencia de los Filipinos, the indolence of the Filipinos. And here, Rizal challenges the stereotypes of Filipino laziness, arguing that it is a consequence of colonial oppression and systemic issues rather than an inherent trait, no? He advocates for reforms to address these underlying problems such as lack of education and economic opportunities. At ito nga, historian Gregorio Saides' perspective, sabi niya, this essay dismantles racist stereotypes and advocates the empowerment of Filipinos through structural change. And this essay was part of Rizal's broader effort to counter racist narratives about Filipinos propagated by Spanish colonizers. At may traces pa rin ng racist narratives na to, no? Yung tinatawag nating Filipino time, na Filipinos daw are always late, fashionably late. Well, that's incorrect. The term Filipino time kasi, it doesn't reflect yung pagiging meticuloso natin, yung culture natin of respecting each other's time. Kasi take note, no? Bakit ba late nagsisimula ang mga festa noon? Ang mga misa noon? It is not because of the Indio. Kasi ang Indio, nandyan na yan, no? Ang mga Indio, sila ang nag-prepare sa festa. Sila ang nag-prepare sa misa. Correct, di ba? They have already prepared for the things. So, sinong hinihintay nila? Ang hinihintay nila, syempre, yung mga Espanyol, no? Yung mga praile, no? Yung mga yung term kasi na Filipino, 'di ba? It's a term for Spaniards who were born in the Philippines. So hindi talaga yung talagang Filipino na tayo ngayon, no? So yun, naiirita ako parati pag sa Filipino time. No, it doesn't say, it doesn't reflect the proper culture of Filipinos who are already there, no? It reflects foreigners, no, who are late because inaasa nila sa mga Indio yung mga preparations lahat-lahat na ang Indio nandyan na yan, no? So yun, so don't use the term Filipino time in describing tardiness, no? Ang mga Pilipino marespeto sa oras yan. Anyway, hindi pa tayo tapos sa literary works. Gumawa din ng mga play, no? Si Rizal gumawa din siya ng mga sa teatro, no? At dito meron siyang ginawa yung El Consejo de los Dioses, The Council of the Gods. This allegorical play reflects Rizal's engagement with classic literature and his advocacy for intellectual freedom. The Council of the Gods underscores the importance of wisdom and virtue in governance and society. At sabi ulit ni Ambet Ocampo, he points out that this play reflects Rizal's literary versatility and his ability to weave complex philosophical ideas into his works. At yun nga, the play won a literary contest in Manila. It further cements Rizal's reputation as a talented writer. Sa mga play, nag-act din si Rizal. At kung minsan, kung medyo late yung allowance sa kanya, parang nag-act siya na babae, which is normal noon sa time nila. And other notable works, of course, hindi makakalimutan dito yung annotations to Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. Nung kasing 17th century, nagkaroon ng libro, yung Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas ni Antonio de Morga, na kung saan ay nagkaroon ng Spanish account sa Philippine history, no? Pero medyo bias kasi yung pagkakasulat ni De Morga. At yun nga, si Rizal nung nakita na tong librong to, nilagay na yung naglagay siya ng annotations to highlight the richness of pre-colonial Filipino civilizations, no? His annotations countered colonial narratives that depicted Filipinos are uncivilized prior to his Spanish intervention. And historian Carlos Quirino asserts that Rizal's annotations were pioneering efforts in reclaiming the Filipino identity and pride, no? Rizal's annotations are considered one of the earliest attempts to write Philippine history from a Filipino perspective. Beyond his literary genius, Dr. Jose Rizal was a dedicated scientist who believed in the transformative power of knowledge. His endeavors in medicine, natural sciences, and the community development exemplify his commitment to applying scientific principles for societal benefit. Una dito yung medical practice. Sa ophthalmology, Rizal pursued advanced studies in ophthalmology in Europe, training under renowned specialists like Dr. Louis de Wecker in Paris and Professor Otto Baker in Heidelberg, Germany. His dedication to this field was partly motivated by his mother's eye ailment, which he sought to cure. And upon returning to the Philippines, he provided free medical care to the underprivileged, demonstrating his commitment to public service. Ambet Ocampo again said in his book, In Rizal Without the Overcoat, he highlights Rizal's dedication to medicine as a reflection of his broader commitment to uplifting his countrymen's welfare. And Rizal's expertise in ophthalmology earned him recognition in Europe, where he presented papers at scientific conferences. Hindi din maalis dito yung contributions to natural sciences. And during his exile in Dapitan, Rizal conducted extensive research on the local flora and fauna. He discovered and documented several species including, number 1, yung Draco rizali, isang species ng flying lizard. Number 2, Apogania rizali, a type of a beetle. And number 3, Rhacophorus rizali, a rare frog species. These discoveries contributed to the broader scientific understanding of Philippine biodiversity and showcase Rizal's meticulous scientific methodology. Sabi ulit ni Ambet Ocampo, no, na yung contribution ni Rizal sa science, it reflects his enlightenment-driven belief that scientific inquiry is very, very crucial for national progress. And of course, Rizal sent specimens of his discoveries to European scientists, earning him recognition in the international scientific community. Of course, hindi rin mawawala dito yung engineering and community development. Una dito yung yung pag-design at pag-supervise sa construction, no, ng isang innovative water supply system sa Dapitan. And this water system in Dapitan, it improved access to clean water for the locals. This reduced waterborne diseases and showcase his practical engineering skills. Hindi rin mawawala yung agricultural innovations ni Rizal, wherein he introduced modern farming techniques and encouraged locals to grow crops that could improve the economic conditions. Fun fact, alam niyo po ba na yung water system na ginawa ni Rizal sa Dapitan, it is still functional today, no? A testament to his engineering prowess. Imagine, yung water system ni Rizal, almost 100 years, gumagana pa rin hanggang ngayon. Tapos yung 1 billion na mga tulay, bumabagsak, wala pang halos 5 years. Anyway, number 4, advocacy for scientific education. Rizal emphasized that scientific and rational education was essential for national progress. He believed that an educated Filipino population could resist oppression and challenge colonial rule through knowledge. And here he pushed for a science-based curricula rather than rote memorization and of course religious instruction imposed by the friars. Pag ikaw ba naman, 30 minutes kayong nagdarasal sa klase, no? Anong matututunan nyo, di ba? So, yun ang sabi din ni Rizal. So, of course, Ambet Ocampo would also explain that Rizal's frustration with UST's rigid education system fueled his desire to bring progressive and science-driven learning to Filipinos. Rizal's emphasis on science education influenced the establishment of the University of the Philippines, which was founded in 1908. And of course, let's go to organizations founded or supported by Rizal. No? Recognizing the power of collective action, Dr. Jose Rizal established and supported several organizations aimed at reform and empowerment. Una dito yung La Liga Filipina back in 1892. Rizal founded in Manila, La Liga Filipina aimed to unite Filipinos and push for peaceful reforms under Spanish rule. Ano ba yung mga goals ng grupo na ito? To unite Filipinos in mutual protection and defense against injustice, to promote education and economic development, to demand reforms peacefully. However, Spanish authorities viewed the group as subversive, leading to Rizal's immediate arrest and exile to Dagupan. To Dapitan, not Dagupan, I'm sorry. Yun, exile to Dapitan. Though La Liga Filipina disbanded, its ideals inspired the formation of the Katipunan, which later led to the revolution. No? Ambet Ocampo would point out that while Rizal preferred peaceful reform, the repression of La Liga Filipina proved that Spain was unwilling to grant Filipinos their rights, strengthening revolutionary sentiment. Imagine, medyo hindi rin kasi nag-isip yung mga Espanyol no? So parang na-threaten sila sa La Liga Filipina. So when they destroyed it, hindi nila alam, umusbong naman yung Katipunan. So what if yung mga Espanyol noon, what if hinayaan lang nila yung La Liga Filipina? What if they listened to La Liga Filipina? What could have happened? Would the Katipunan happen? Would Bonifacio, noted members sila ng La Liga Filipina, would they form Katipunan after La Liga Filipina? Yun yung isang what if sa Philippine history. No? Other organizations that Rizal supported, meron yung Círculo Hispano Filipino. It is a Madrid-based group advocating for Filipino representation in the Spanish government. Naisip kasi nila, walang mangyari pag hindi nare-represent yung kagustuhan at yung kabutihan sana ng mga Pilipino sa Spanish government. Kasi noon, hindi din kasi alam ng mga tao sa Espanya kung ano talagang nangyayari sa mga colonies niya. No? Of course, reports lang yan, but they don't see the real picture. No? So, iniisip nila, no, pag meron tayong representation sa Spanish government, through the Spanish Cortes, magkakaroon sana ng mga reforms. No? So, yun. And of course, Asociación La Solidaridad. Rizal actively contributed to this reformist group, which published La Solidaridad, the primary newspaper of the propaganda movement. Class, as we've seen today, Rizal was more than just a writer. He was a polymath, a scientist, and an organizer. His works, scientific discoveries, and advocacy for reform laid the foundation for Philippine nationalism. His belief in education, science, and of course in rational discourse remains relevant today. But let's take this a step further. No? Rizal's life and accomplishments serve as a template for the kind of leaders that we should support in elections. Individuals who have a clear vision for nation building and a proven track record for service and integrity. Why settle for politicians who merely claim to have the heart of service, may puso, but offer nothing more than, empty promises, mga short-term solutions, mga jacket, no? Rizal didn't just talk about change, he lived it. No? He used his intellect, skills, and resources to uplift his fellow Filipinos, whether through his novels, scientific contributions, or community projects in Dapitan. He didn't just give away band-aid solutions, he addressed the root causes of oppression and inequality. No? So yun, isip-isip naman po tayo sa susunod na election, mga kaibigan. No? As we move forward in our studies, I encourage you to reflect on Rizal's multidisciplinary approach. How can we, as students, apply Rizal's ideals in addressing today's challenges? Whether in science, politics, or education, we must carry on his legacy by using knowledge for the betterment of society. Let's ask ourselves, what would Rizal do? No. But let's also take this lesson to the ballot box. Let's demand leaders who embody Rizal's values. Leaders who are educated, visionary, genuinely committed to serving the people. Please lang, huwag na po kayong boto ng mga Padre Damaso at Padre Salvi. No? Huwag nyo iboto itong mga taong to. Huwag kayong boboto ng mga Please lang. Anyway, thank you. And I look forward to your insights and discussions. Let's honor Rizal's legacy, not just by studying his works, but by striving to be the change he envisioned for our nation. Maraming salamat po. This ends our midterms.